Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Today, I have a special guest who I'll be talking to, Denise Champagne. We met at SAS North in Ottawa about 2 months ago, and we've been talking about prospecting there. So I wanted to bring Denise on the show today because he has a very strategic way of getting into the C-level mailbox. So, Denise, welcome. I'm glad to have you on our LinkedIn Live today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sean, for inviting me. It's great to be here with you.
Perfect. Well, maybe before we get started, maybe tell a little bit about yourself and where you come from, because I know you have about 35 years at least of sales experience. So you've been around and you've seen it all.
Okay, well, thanks. I born and raised in Ottawa, and even in high school, I was getting appointments for furniture salespeople to go into homes to sell furniture. So I go back a long time, and I've done pro sports like you and racket sports, but essentially, I've done transactional sales room. I had a telemarketing management room, a job in Toronto in the 80s, and in the 90s, I had a call center for 10 years where we sold advertising for universities, actually, in CSuite, across colleges all over the country. And then I went into marketing communication sales, CD-ROM presentations, all that stuff. And in the last 16 years, 17 years, I decided to focus really on B2B. And because I already had a fair amount of experience and also the kind of a natural spirit of looking forward to connecting with people, so I had no real fear of reaching out. It was easy for me, or natural anyways, not easy, but natural. So I've been representing and executing for various companies in different verticals. The real lead generation, opening doors, prospecting, and of course, the ideal place to go is to the C-suite, because then you can get the strategic, and buy-in for the rest of the organization. So I've been doing that. And in the last year, I started working on my methodology to help other BDRs, SDR, and sales team to learn and be more mature and more successful in the prospecting process.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to a good point because we talked about this, and I find that I don't know why, I'm not, but salespeople in general sometimes are scared to go to the C-suite. What they like to do is they like to go to like the SDRs and account managers and move their way up, where I've had my most success actually moving my way down. So kind of going to the C level, then having those introductions downwards. Like, how do you find people nowadays, how they sell to more of the SDRs than, back in the day, people used to go right to the C-suite at the companies?
Well, fear is the fear of the phone, fear of FOP, fear of people, fear of phones, fear of failure. It's it's a very natural, it's very human tendency. I would say that if you want to be successful, the best place to go is the C-suite. But prior to that, you need to be, well learned and practiced. Us salespeople are athletes of the company, right? And that's whereby the parallel between our respective professional background in sport. So you got to train, you got to learn. So there are things that you need to know, and they are learnable, they are teachable, and they are there, and it exists. So you can become more professional. But with a C-suite, you just got to be a lot more on point, on issues, on insights, on pains, on strategic, leader-oriented problems that that matter to them. If you're approaching them, like trying to throw a nice line like you use in 10th grade on a girl, ain't going to work. Maybe with an
Exactly.
SDR, but with a C-suite, he has very little time. You got to be relevant. You got to be mature and conversationally, relevant, but to the point. And they will be able to tell by the voice. As you know, I talk a lot about voice in my coaching because it is neglected. But yeah, but it's fantastic once you engage intelligently, correctly, a C-suite. It is a nice place to start from, to be promoted down everywhere and come back up and connect with the C-suite for further, inquiries and processing in the sales transaction.
Yeah, and I find especially, if you speak to an SDR, even if they refer you to their director of sales, for example, it's highly unlikely that if a referral from an SDR to a director of sales, that the director of sales will actually reply to you. However, if a CEO, reaches down to their, director of sales and, hey, take a 15-minute call with Sean for auto close, for example, it's more likely that they're going to listen than listen from SDR. So I also agree with your points. I think you gotta skip the bullshit. You almost have like 3 seconds. You got to get them in that first line. If it's on the phone, if it's by email, you got to hit that pain point right away. And if you can hit that pain point right away, you'll get respect from that C-level person. But also, as you said, they'll hear confidence in your voice. So if you call expecting to lose, you're probably going to lose. But if you go call, listen, they're going to answer my call and you're confident. I think that will play a pivotal role as well. Do you think confidence in that sales rep when they're making that call is important?
Well, that's an obvious answer, right? You asked a question to get a yes. You're a good salesman. Uh, but definitely confidence in your ability to also respond at will, ad hoc to whatever is presented to you. And that takes practice. That's why I would go back to practice. Nadal, yourself, anybody, the backhand, I'm sure you've drilled it down the alley 15,000 times. That's under pressure, you'll be able to execute, right?
It might have been the forehand, not the backhand. Though.
Okay.
The backhand was a two-hander, and it wasn't as consistent as the forehand.
Okay. Well, I'll reverse it then. The forehand down the alley. But
So then, I would like, how important is the role and function of prospecting play in B2B selling? If you're going to, prospect to the C-suite individuals today, and how is that different than maybe it was 20 years ago versus today?
Well, actually, it's more important today than ever because there's been such an escape or divergence by all kinds of technological means to reach out and connect and, to outreach to various decision makers or potentially decision makers. But ultimately, there are maybe a few decision makers. I would say that probably 9 times out of 10, people have the authority to say only no. Not many have the authority to say yes. And then from that point, vantage point, there's only 1 or 2 that can say yes and approve the yes.
Yeah.
So it's a very complex process. And there's more people involved in decision making now than ever.
Yeah.
The last research I read from a gentleman out of, it's called Trinity Ventures out of Trinity Ventures out of Australia, Ken McLaughlin. There were, I think 10 years ago, an average of about 4 people in a decision. Mm-hmm. Now it's up to 12 people in a decision.
Yeah.
So it's very complex. You got to have your knowledge base very strongly put together as to what are the issues they have to deal with. And that's why talking the language of strategic and leadership is what's in P&L issues, what are dynamic, strategic things that concern him or his CEO and the board of directors, what's an effect on the deliverables and churn and results, the bottom line for the shareholders.
Yeah.
So that's the leadership talk you got to have with the C-suite. But once you show relevance, and you've understood that and you practiced it and you learn from others, stay alive as a learner, always keep writing, reading. It's very complex today. There's never been more tools, but it's more difficult and there's less people attaining quota. Yeah. So you gotta be a learner and you gotta practice and role play. It's not easy, but it's damn worth it. That's how I always see it.
So, where are some inherent weaknesses in the execution of B2B prospecting with SDR as you see and BDR teams today? And how is that different?
It's funny because I was at a client this morning with 4 top reps, international sales reps in the environmental software industry. And, execution, they have a call with their vice president every morning to overview everything. And I'm going to have a chat with the VP to say, you're not going to have a call with your staff until 9 o'clock because every member of your staff from 8 to 9 will be on the phone prospecting or looking for some new prospects. From now on, every Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock, your staff is prospecting because it's execution really. And the willingness to I think get out of your comfort zone and break new habits and replace them by better ones. And just understand that the C-suite are human beings. They're accountable and they have issues to deal with.
Yeah, no, I completely, there's definitely issues that they have to deal with. So I guess, if you were going to create a prospecting model for reaching out, like how would that model look nowadays for C-suite? Because I think as we talked about, like I don't know why people are scared to hit that C-suite, but you need to. So what is the model that you would recommend for, I guess, up and coming, inspiring salespeople or people that are kind of scared to hit that C-suite right now?
It's a loaded question because it depends where they're coming from in terms of their prior experience. But definitely study the industry that you're going to attack. There's the vertical industry in which you're going to work and attack
Yeah,
or approach. There's the company, and then there's the individual. So you've got to do your, get around and understand what are the pervasive issues. Talk to technical people where you work because they're into the project. And I don't know if you heard this, I'm sure you know it, but after you sign the contract or once you're in the project, they open up and they tell you all kinds of things that had you known this prior, you would have been able to probably poke at some pain areas where there's some real robust changes to bring so that compelling cases and scenarios. So the industry, know the industry, know what are the greater 4 or 5 leader oriented pains, then the company that you're going to approach, and then the individual that you're going to approach, and make it, personalize it, make it robust by developing vocal and verbal artistry and conversational maturity, and then practice that and stay learner focused, like always keep as a student and then execute. Then it's 8 to 9 every morning. 1 hour prospecting is not a lot, but if you don't have a big pipeline, your voice, your confidence is going to go down.
yeah.
And that's how you sound desperate. And the C-suite doesn't want to talk to desperate people.
No, that's for sure. And this is one of the more interesting conversations we had at SAS North when we were talking in person. Was you find that the opening is more important than closing, and at AutoClose we always talk about closing the sale, but I tend to agree with you. So why don't you explain why and how important the opening is, and how that opening will help you close throughout that sales funnel?
Well, the first thing is if you approach someone and you have no relevance in your first 5, 10, 20 seconds. Obviously, I have a model about the voice and how to engage and connect with anyone to get a response that's favorably moving you forward and say, I can trust this person. I'll listen to her more or him more. And then if you don't set the agenda with things that matter to them, you're out.
Yeah.
You're just another rep. Whereas if you bring substance and relevance in a proper way and you incite and you create enough, I say, matter to the matter, then they will probably, and you want to book them for 15 minutes. That's all you want. When can we find till next week 15 minutes to discuss further these particular issues? So it's to create a clear narrative, as Tony Hughes says, clear narrative, very focused. Think about it. That's what I was doing with the reps this morning, is really re-engineering their narrative so that when they speak to someone, it perks up their attention. So once you set the agenda in there, how you set it up and you start it will determine how it will finish.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you start wrong, to bring it elsewhere, because that's what they will have in the foremost in their minds and thoughts. So you've got to hit them on the nail with some relevance, some seriousness that is, focused for their industry, their company, and that person. So they're, like I said, the threefold approach. If you do that, usually, if you care and you every time you speak to them or connect with them, there's more value. It's not just I'm calling to touch base like a lot of reps do, which is a waste of time. It just lacks seriousness. But you bring always value and you move forward and you're consultative. And if you bring something up that that they didn't know about
Yep.
or they weren't aware of, you go, oh, that's good. Then you're in as a trusted advisor and you walk along with them with the process, signing a contract or getting them to go ahead with your solutions. It's just a natural next step, and you can't get too excited about that because you've built it correctly. It's like the foundation of your tennis sport.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I'll tell you a few things that I've noticed. So me personally, when people ask me for demos and they say, "Okay, I want to give you a demo," and they start doing like a full PowerPoint presentation before they get into the meat of what their software does, as we continue to grow, time is more precious for me. So for me to sit there for a 25-minute presentation and then getting into the meat and stuff, I've already lost interest right away. Even if you have the greatest software in the world, because you've kept me on the phone for 45 minutes, I've lost interest. And on that fact, what we've done now in-house, even when we're doing demos, I've actually trained my salespeople, skip the settings. Don't even go into settings on how to do all that stuff. Go right into how to start a campaign and keep your demos within 15 minutes. And we find, because people don't want to see, okay, where do I connect my email? How do I set up the account? They want to see, what does that software do? And show me how it works and how robust it is. And by doing that and keeping it very short and in that 15 minutes, like you said, the results have been proven. So I definitely agree with you that you need to really find, what that pain point is and either do it consultative or really focus and try and get everything in that 15 minutes to show them how you can bring value.
Absolutely. And value is a relative term. It can be high, low value, but value to them. So it's not what the software does. It's not what the software is. It's what the software does.
Yes.
Women don't buy a lipstick. They buy beautiful lips, right?
You're right.
So it's what it does that's important for them, what matters for them. So focus on the ultimate benefit to them and the instrumentality in having a better business process, better business outcomes for them. That's what matters to them. So if you can get to the source quickly by knowing what they're all about, that company, again, the industry, the company, the individual, and if you always focus on that, it's not about you, it's about them.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So I usually like to keep our talks and my LinkedIn lives till the 20 minutes. So I guess one last thing is, how can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out? Because I know you are a wealth of knowledge for the C-suite, and I know our team has helped definitely as well. So how can they get in touch with you?
Well, lotuscom.com is my website, lotuscomm.com. And my email is Denis, DENIS, at lotuscomm.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. But LinkedIn is usually my business side. And I have other podcasts that I've done with people that you already know, that they can go and get some advice or some help to get themselves more, proficient and competent in prospecting.
Perfect. Well, it was great talking to Denis, and I'm sure we are only 4 hours away, so I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Take care.
Take care, Sean. Thanks for your time.